Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Wilder Ride, our listeners' lounge, a podcast where we look at the life of a person instead of a movie 1 minute at a time, their life 1 moment at a time. I'm your host, Alan Sanders.
I am your co-host, Walt Murray.
And we have a fantastic guest who will be joining us here in just a few minutes. Someone I've been really wanting to interview, someone who I listen to pretty much daily on air. So that is going to be coming up in just a couple minutes. We'll let that hang to tease everybody to keep them listening through our opening segment here. In the meantime, Walt, it's been a week since we've last been together. What's new in the Murray household?
Oh, nothing new ever. It's finally springtime, so I can't breathe. My eyes are all glued shut with pollen, and I'm really missing winter now. So
yeah, the spring. It's technically not spring in terms of the season, but in terms of the pollen, it's very early.
Yeah, we're getting killed. I'm going through more coffee than normal, and that's not probably a good thing.
Well, that's for me. That's a normal day. 3 mugs in the morning, and then usually 1 or 2 in the afternoon. That's a normal day for me.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with allergies.
Do that as well, and I'm adding to it. So, but whatever. So, not a whole lot going on. I guess I'm just kind of starting to get the yard ready, and doing all that kind of stuff. So, it's getting here faster than I want it to. I like the cool weather, so it looks like it's going to be a long spring and summer.
Well, one of the things, I'll put some of the pictures up when the episode drops. One of the things I knew I've needed to do for a little while, as you know, I'm pretty handy when it comes to carpentry and building furniture pieces and things like that. And my wife wanted me to build some custom kitchen cabinets for the kitchen for a piece she had an idea about. And I've got a kind of a smaller table saw. It only has about a 2 foot wide by maybe 2 foot deep sort of platform. It's designed to be able to take to job sites and do smaller cuts. But when you want to cut a piece of 4x8, really hard to do. So what I did is I actually built an extension table for my table saw to kind of slide into.
Oh yeah,
and now I can
picture that.
Yeah, okay, so I put some out there on my personal page, and what I did over the weekend, because we had a couple of nice days, I actually took and started putting measurements on the one side, so I measured out, so that way I've got all my lines, and I can create my own rail to cut however wide I want, and I've already started working on some custom cabinets now. I've already built the base. That was something I did before the holidays. Now I'm building sort of like 3 different cabinets that will all interact with one another, and so that to me was a fun day. I know a lot of people are like, do you think that's fun? Like, a lot better than washing floors and doing dishes.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I did wash my car, but I took that through the car wash. I didn't actually.
That's why it rained. Thank you.
Hand wash it. Yes, and you're welcome. Yeah, I knew when I did it, I was like, yeah, but I needed to vacuum it out. It looked like I had just gone camping and dumped all the woods into my car. So, part of the fun of having kids.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I look at one of your projects, I'm thinking, Alan is either trying to get away from the wife and kids, or he's done something to really piss her off, and he's trying to make up for it. I'm really trying to figure out what the code is, but you just seem to like getting over your head in these projects and building your way out of it.
Let's be clear. I am always trying to dig myself out of the hole that I made for myself. There is zero doubt about who's always at fault for the issues at our home.
Yeah, no, I absolutely can understand that and relate.
So, you know what, though? I don't mind those bigger projects. And the thing is, sometimes I am both. I'm happy that my wife thinks I'm as good as I am at some things. And then it's terrifying because some of the things she asked me to build, I'm like, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I'm going to have to fake it. I actually spent about 3 weeks watching YouTube videos and how-to videos to decide what's the best way to build these cabinets. I just couldn't conceive of the best way to do it on my own.
Well, I was watching one the other day. I'm going to have to do a little flooring. And the guy who was doing the videos from Arizona. And so he said, when you peel the flooring back, be sure and look in and make sure there are no rattlesnakes. And I was like, Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
If there's a chance of rattlesnakes, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry about that here.
No, hopefully not.
Now, that's my ongoing concurrent project. I've been slowly replacing all the carpet in all the rooms with, what's it called? It's vinyl laminate. It's the luxury laminate where...
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's really good stuff. Looks just like hardwood. It is, for all intents and purposes. It's as good, if not better, because it's waterproof and everything. And it's just, you save a lot of money doing it yourself, but at the same time, it takes a lot longer because I'm not a team that does this day in and day out, and I'm not good at going 8 straight hours on my knees, banging wood together and trying to keep it all on the floor. And I don't mind doing it. It's going to be a project that's going to take another couple of months for me to finish.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
All right, well, but before we bring our guests, anything else going on? Because we are seeing return to sports. I know you're a big baseball kind of guy. You're a hockey guy, and we've been watching. The 2021 season seems to be moving more toward a normal season for these sports.
Yeah, as a hockey fan, the teams have been traveling, which they didn't do last year, so that's been kind of cool. I saw an article on one of the Boston Bruins fan sites that they are going to start letting a limited number of fans into TD Center coming up. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully there's no spike. I don't think there will be, but at least fans are going to start getting to see sports face to face. I think with baseball, that's kind of the plan as the season starts, to let fans in limited numbers in the stadium. So that's exciting. That, we talk about returning to normal. What is more normal for America than to be able to go to a baseball game or a football game, sit in the stands, eat crappy food, drink too much beer, and watch a game?
We're America, man.
It's America. So, and that gives me some hope for the fall that maybe, college sports and professional football can get going on a regular schedule too. And we can start seeing some of the stuff getting back to normal.
I hope so.
Traffic has started to get back to normal. I know our guest is going to want to talk about that, but I'm almost angry about it now because I'm like, I used to get to work in 14 minutes. Now it's like 35. This is starting to get me mad.
All right. Well, since you sort of hinted at it, and since I think we have sufficiently warmed the audience up enough, let us go ahead and part the curtains on our Johnny Carson stage and say, welcome to our guest, Veronica Harrell. Veronica, welcome.
Yay!
Thank you so much. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad you are able to join us. I have wanted to have some time with you. It's one of those weird things, being on radio, when you have different roles and responsibilities. I hear you all the time and rarely get a chance to talk to you.
Our schedules are so crazy. So
they're very different. For those folks who don't know the voice or the name, Veronica Harrell is one of the traffic members of the Triple Team Traffic News Center at WSB in Atlanta. And what I wanted to do, and what we do with all of our guests, is before we get to where you are now, let's set the Wayback Machine to when did you decide? Where were you in the life of Veronica Harrell that you said, I think broadcasting might be in my future?
That's funny. We got to go way back. Well, I initially, when I went to college, I got my degree in mass communications. And believe it or not, I did not want to be on radio. I actually wanted to be like a director. I wanted to direct movies, be in the background. I did not want to be on radio. And a friend of mine that I was speaking with was like, you have a very unique voice. Have you ever thought about being on radio? I was like, no, that's not something I want to do. I want to be in the background. I want to direct movies, do shows, things like that. But I don't know, something just kind of egged me on to it. And so I kind of went on to broadcasting. So as soon as I got out of college, I got a job in radio. My first job was actually at a conservative news talk station, WKHM in Jackson, Michigan. And I worked there doing news. And so I kind of got the bug, and you know how it is in radio once you get that bug. So I got that bug. And then from there, the rest is history. I started off again initially as a news reporter. And so that's what I did. I lived in Lansing, Michigan, and I did news. Then I'm from Detroit. So I went to my hometown and I did news for a while. And then my husband, I've been married now for a long time. my husband got a job here in Atlanta, and then that's what brought me to Atlanta. And I worked at several different locations, and then I got a job working over at WSB. When I initially came on, I actually came on as a part-time fill-in news person. And then that just kind of led over to traffic. Doug Turnbull, of course, you know Doug, and my manager, my boss and stuff kind of was like, hey, why don't you try out traffic? So I did, and here I am.
You know, it's such a great summary, but that's like Reader's Digest. We'll have to let you go, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to go back to Jackson, Michigan. I'm actually from Detroit. That's where I was born.
Really?
Yeah, I was born in Detroit. My mom and dad, a couple years after, moved to Troy, and then a couple years later moved up to Rochester. So we moved more toward the, I guess, the northeast away from Detroit. You were due west of Detroit, right?
Yeah. I am literally like in the heart of Detroit. I'm over by Motown Records. I'm right down the street from Motown Records, right down the street from Henry Ford Hospital. So over West Side, West Grand Boulevard area, that's where I grew up.
Okay, so you grew up there and then you moved to Jackson with your first job.
Yeah.
I gotcha. See, and all those places, I remember touring the Henry Ford Museum. I remember going to all of those, Boblo Island, coming down, and just my mom and dad would go across the Ambassador Bridge because she was born in Canada, so we'd go over to Toronto. So you hung out all the same places that I did growing up.
That is so crazy. I did not know that. And when you said Boblo, man, that brings back so many memories because only people from Detroit, or from Michigan, I should say, know about Boblo Island.
Yeah. Yes. Isn't that great? And then you bring up Motown. I mean, did we not grow up in like the greatest music ever?
We did. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. So many talented people. I mean, amazing. But yeah, we certainly did.
Well, I know I'm sort of monopolizing, but when I find a fellow Michigander, I just can't help it. We just start going down.
Well, there's so few of you that
I know, right?
We've all
want to
moved
admit
to
they're
Georgia.
From there. So, Veronica, as a transplant from one part of the country to the other, what are the things that drew you to Atlanta and drew your family to Atlanta, and then drew you to that career that you have chosen, or that's chosen you in Atlanta radio?
Well, my husband is a train engineer, and so he got a job here in Georgia, and it was difficult because, I mean, again, I was born and raised in Detroit. My entire family's still there, so it was difficult to come to Georgia. And when I got here initially, I was kind of blessed because I was able to still find a job in radio. I was working over at a one company, and I was doing some traffic and doing some news, and then I kind of found my way over to WSB. So being a transplant at first, it was difficult because I did miss my home.
It is a definite culture shock. I remember I felt similar moving from Detroit to what I thought was sort of country, but south.
Yes.
And I didn't have a command of the vernacular, some of the terms. I felt like a fish out of water for the first few years I was here.
Yeah, I did. I admit, I mean, I was actually a little depressed because I was so used to my surroundings. I was so used to my food. I was so used to restaurants, my friends, getting to know people here. Although I had my husband still, it was just all so new. But now it's my home. I mean, I've been here now for over 20 years. Bought my first home here. My daughter was born here. She's an original Georgia peach. So this is my home now.
If you've been in Atlanta 20 years, you're a native.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I mean, it really is. It is funny that it's that way. I was just on a podcast over the weekend where the guys who do the podcast are from Australia, and they kept kind of throwing out stuff of, Americans are this way, Americans are that way. And I was like, well, hold on a second.
Right.
We have a huge country with a very diverse culture. And one of the examples I used was some things that Alan had talked about with Detroit. And I said, I grew up in Ohio and Atlanta, and it is very, very different going from one area of the country to the other and making that transition. So it's really cool that y'all could do that. And with your husband's job in the railroad, was he traveling around a lot, or was he mostly working in the area here?
Well, at first he was traveling around a lot. But now he is working mainly in the area. He travels just like to Tennessee, and that's it. So
that has to be a really cool job.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. And it's so funny because when I tell people, oh, well, he actually drives a train, he just looks at it as a job. He doesn't look at it like, oh, I actually drive a huge train.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, it is really cool. It is really cool. And when I tell people all the time, they are just so amazed by it. But he's like, it's just a job. It's no big deal.
You know, it's funny. I met a guy just recently who is an engineer with CSX Railroad, and they're a huge hub through Cartersville. I talk about it a lot when I'm on my station, especially when they stop for an hour and a half blocking your state highways, and everybody goes out of their minds. But the guy said that there are, I guess it's sort of like the trucking industry. There are different kinds of routes or jobs that you can choose, where if you're a little more seasoned and a little older, you've been with the company, you can choose those day jobs where you're making runs to and back, and then you can kind of have a home life. And the younger guys that want to make a little more money, or maybe they want the adventure, can go much longer loops around the country.
Yeah, and that's true. That is true. Again, initially when he started, he was traveling more. And that was a little bit more difficult because I was kind of by myself at that time. But now, since he's been there now for over 20 years, he is seasoned, and, so he can kind of choose his routes as well. He can turn down a job or say, I'd rather do this. I want to kind of stay at home a little longer this time around. So.
All right.
It's going to be a neat way to see the country, though.
It is. It is. He'll send me some fabulous shots of the mountains and sunsets and sunrises, and so it's a cool job.
Have you ever wanted to go on one of the more recreational train rides with him, just where you're actually passengers on a train?
I would like to do that. Yeah. And I said it's so crazy because I've been with him forever. He's been with the railroad forever, but I've never been on a train.
He's never been able to take
I've been to the yard, I've been to the yard, and that's quite intimidating. When you actually go into the railroad yard and you see all these humongous trains and boxcars and things like that. So, yeah, it's kind of intimidating, but I've never actually been on a train ride with him, no.
So do you think if you went on a train ride with him, do you think it would be like flying with a pilot? And, how pilots are always like, well, they shouldn't do that, or they should do this better, or whatever. Do you think
I probably would. I probably would. Yeah. Well, what are you doing that for? Asking so many questions. That's probably why he won't take me. So he gets to escape me when he can go on his train ride.
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
So.
All right, well, let's get back to you. You said one of your first jobs was in Jackson in a conservative talk radio. Were you a reporter? Were you on? I forgot. I know you said kind of quickly, and I went so fast. Were you a journalist at that point? Were you hired to be a news person?
Yes, I was. I actually was on. I was actually a news reporter. I actually was writing stories, going out into the city, talking to people, interviewing people. So yeah, I actually was a journalist.
So how did that feel making that move? Because you said you went to school for broadcast. Was it broadcast journalism? Did you have at least a background in journalism as well in terms of techniques?
I did a little bit, I admit. I really did not. Because again, my field, I really wanted to be a director. I wanted to be a movie director. I like films and shows. So doing that, it was a little different. I kind of took the job, honestly, just to see whether or not I would like doing it. And that's why I took the job. I'm very thankful for it because it did give me an opportunity and it opened up a career for me. I don't know if I would have had a career trying to be a movie director or film director or whatever, but it was good. I met a lot of great people. I learned a lot. And Alan, if you know Jackson, Michigan, that's where the prison system is located.
Yeah.
So I used to get a lot of letters from prisoners.
Wow, be my pen pal.
Yes.
Yeah. I bet you did.
And of course, back then, no internet. So tell me what you look. Tell me what you look
internet.
like.
I love you. Please come see me.
Yes.
Can you send me a snapshot?
Can you send me a picture of you?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, well, thank you for listening to the station, but no. So yeah, it was different.
Yeah, did you ever have any that you were like, wait, I just reported his bank robbery the other day.
Right, exactly. It was kind of weird.
You're that Mr. Thomas. Gotcha. Wow. Okay, so you kind of cut your teeth there. How long do you remember before you realized that there was another opportunity to move elsewhere? I know you said your husband had the opportunity to move, but how long were you at the station in Jackson before you made sort of like your next leap?
I was there for probably maybe about close to 2 years because I wanted to get back to Detroit because then my next job led me to Detroit. So I wanted to get back to Detroit. And when I went to Detroit, I, again, was a news person, but I was a part of a morning show. So it wasn't that hardcore news anymore. It was just kind of like being, on an R&B station, WGPR.
Okay.
A legendary station in Detroit, 107.5. So I went there and I was a news reporter in the morning, sort of like a part of the morning show. Worked there for maybe about 3 years. And then that's when my husband was like, well, hey, have you thought about moving to Georgia? Because Detroit at that time, unfortunately, it was going through its struggles. So
yeah, we know Detroit goes through up and down waves,
yeah.
and sometimes you're like, it's time to think about going someplace more productive. So was this? I'm gonna have to ask. I want to age you, but I know for us, we made our move in the mid '80s, right when things were really still bad for the auto industry, still bad for a lot of the blue collar sector. My dad had been out of work for about 4 years, and so had an opportunity in '85 to relocate to Atlanta, and that's how I got here. So I'm a mid '80s transplant to the South.
Okay, no, I'm not aging myself, but no, I wasn't in the '80s. I was in the late '90s when I got here.
Gotcha.
Like 98 is when I got here.
Okay. All right. So when you got here, your husband had the job. So what was the next station either that you worked at, or where were you trying to get back in on radio? Because I'm assuming you were trying to stay in radio since that was kind of where you'd already fallen.
Yes. So actually I worked for a company called Metro Networks. And at that time, Metro Networks was like the big thing here. Well, really all over, but especially here in Georgia. They provided traffic and news and weather and all of that stuff for so many radio stations. So I was able to quickly get a job working at Metro Networks. And again, I was doing like some news. I was just part-time fill-in. I was doing some news. I was doing some traffic. And that's just kind of like what got me connected with WSB. Because at that time, Metro Networks was a company that provided, again, the traffic and the news and the weather for several radio stations, including B103, WSB, 11 Alive, WSB TV, all of these stations. So it's like if you're brought on, you may have that opportunity to be able to do traffic or do news for one of these stations, even though you're not an employee for the station, sort of like a contractor. And so when I came on, I actually was doing stuff for V103 for a while. Okay. And so then I started to fill in and do stuff for WSB. And then that's how I got connected with WSB and everyone over there.
All right. Now, you dropped his name a little bit ago, and he is actually going to be coming on our show at the end of the month. The manager of the Triple Team Traffic Center, Doug Turnbull, who's also a huge NASCAR guy, and he's got a great story on how he got into WSB. So let me ask this. What was it that Doug heard or saw in you, or how did the two of you cross paths that you went from sometimes news journalist, sometime entertaining talk morning show to, I'm going to tell you how to steer around the accidents in Atlanta?
It's so funny because, believe it or not, it was Pete Spriggs. And Doug Turnbull put me in contact because, again, I was doing news. He put me in contact with Pete Spriggs as far as like doing some news. Pete Spriggs put me in contact with Candace Presley. So Candace Presley brought me on to do fill-in news on B98. At that time, they were doing news in the morning, as well as Kiss 104 to fill in for Veronica Waters. And so that's how I got my foot in the door at WSB. And so that's how I started working at WSB. Unfortunately, that ended. The news in the morning show for B98 and the news in the morning for Kiss 104. So that's when I started talking to Doug, and he was like, well, what about, traffic? And I had done traffic before, but it wasn't like my main gig. So I started doing traffic for WSB, just like filling in. Then I started doing traffic for Kiss 104, again, just filling in. And then the dominoes just kind of fell into place. And I started doing permanently for WSB because for a while I was doing it for WSB and I was also still working over at Metro Networks, which is now Total Traffic.
So I guess now my question, and again, I'm not trying to monopolize. I know Walt, we go back and forth, but
I've got some questions.
For me, the idea of suddenly going from traffic from a city like Jackson or some of the smaller areas around a major city, Atlanta is not exactly an easy place to navigate.
No.
Roads change names halfway down the street. You're like, wait, when did I make a turn? I'm on a different road now. You got 25 peach trees, right? All variations.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
it sounds cliche, but it's true. I mean, we really
Yes.
have that. What was it like making the transition to have to be so versed in traffic?
It was a struggle at first. I have to admit, it was a struggle because, like what you said, I mean, coming from Detroit, traffic was nowhere near like the way it is here in Atlanta. And when I initially moved here in the 90s, it wasn't even that bad. It's gotten worse over time as more people have moved here. So it was a struggle. And like what you had mentioned earlier about the street names and knowing what to call it. You may look at it and you're like, well, you should pronounce it that way. And people are like, no. You don't call it that way. You say it this way. So it was a struggle. I admit, when I initially started, I was working with Mark Aram and Ashley Frasca in the morning. And I would see the way that they would just literally look at a map and just read it. Oh, 285 eastbound is wide open from the outer loop area over here. And I was thinking to myself, these people are crazy. I don't see how they do it. I was like, I don't know what is wrong. Maybe they're on drugs.
Well, and figuring out things like, where does 285 become eastbound? And become westbound? And
exactly.
And which Peachtree Road is this? I have seen like 4 different countings of how many peach trees there are in the city of Atlanta. Like, I don't think anybody knows.
I know. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, it was a struggle with all of that. And so when I initially started, I used to actually write out my traffic reports because I didn't want to mess up. I didn't want to sound like a fool. So I would actually write out my traffic reports. So then I got the job where I was working by myself in the midday. And I said to myself, I like a challenge. So I said, you're going to have to stop writing stuff down. You're going to be able to go off the fly and do this. You can do it and stuff. So I actually just started doing it. I would mess up. I would sound like a fool. But I said, I want to do it. So now I can do it like with the best of them. I can read just directly off of the map and figured out all the different. The peach trees still kind of confuse me. I still don't quite understand that. That's a question for Doug.
I've lived here since 1978, and I just kind of smile and nod when y'all start going through the peach trees. I'm like, okay.
Well, I'll be honest with you. The inner and the outer loops kind of threw me. And that was something that, with Captain Herb, he was like, well, you got to call it the inner and the outer loops. And I'm thinking to myself, just call it eastbound and westbound, northbound and south. What's an inner? Why do we have to say? I don't get it. Now I understand. Right. And I've even had people call me, like if I do a report too quickly, and I'll just say, 285 eastbound from Ashford, Dunwoody over to I-85 Spaghetti Junction area. I have some people call and say, well, you didn't mention that it was the inner loop. And I'm thinking to myself, but I said,
which way do you think you're going?
Eastbound, so I don't get it. But,
Veronica, and for our listeners who don't live in Atlanta, there is no way to explain to someone who's never driven in Atlanta what Atlanta traffic and what driving in Atlanta is like. It is unique. Like, I've been to Los Angeles where they're like, oh, we have the worst traffic. I'm like, come with me.
Well,
Come drive on my tires for a week.
There's a difference. LA, I will tell you this. LA, the reason it's so bad is you're on the interstate for an hour and a half going just 10 miles because that's it. In Atlanta, you're in the car for an hour and a half, but it's because you're going 30 miles. There's a difference in that. But Atlanta, I grew up in Detroit. So did Veronica. We had a grid. It was very easy to plot where you are. Yes. There is no straight line anywhere in the Georgia DOT system. It is just a spaghetti.
You know why, right?
Because Georgia Tech designed it based on Indian trails.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
part of it.
That's
or
true.
Something cow trails.
Yeah, well, I mean, seriously, Native Americans had their ways to move all throughout Georgia, and some engineer way back when they started designing their highway system, I actually had a professor who learned this and taught us this. He said they thought it was the coolest thing. Well, we'll just follow the same trails. Well, those trails went, left and right, then up and down, and then everybody wanted to have it named their name for that period of time you're in their municipality. It is so crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you can get on Roswell Road and it goes through 5 different cities. And then all of a sudden it changes names. What just happened here? So,
Well, you've got
and then, of course, you have the drivers who think that I know the rest of traffic's moving 30, but I need to move 70.
Yes. In the rain.
In the rain. And so they're causing accidents. And then, heaven forbid, there's an accident because everybody's got to stop and look at it.
Yes.
And Atlanta has such a unique traffic personality. It's just crazy. And then, of course, we all remember the ubiquitous ladder in the road. There is always a ladder in the road somewhere in Atlanta.
Why is that? Or a mattress.
Or a mattress.
Or a mattress. Why is that?
I've never been able to figure it out, but we rely on people like you to tell us where they are.
I do my best.
One of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, Veronica, is I remember hearing you when you first started getting sort of that regular beat on the air, WSB being one of the stations I just listened to religiously, honestly. It's just, I got hooked on it when I was doing the Atlanta commute, and I just never went away from it. And you have developed such a conversational, easygoing demeanor that every time I hear her, I'm like, I just think she just loves what she's talking about. Like you come across as you love what you're doing.
I do love what I do. I do. I try to stand out. I'll be honest with you. All of my life, I've always, I guess I would say, been teased for the way that I talk. Of course, I'm an African-American woman. I went to a Catholic school. I'm not Catholic, not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I went to a Catholic school. So I have a lot of Caucasian friends. Of course, I have African-American friends as well. So I would get from one side, well, you talk a certain way. Maybe you talk too Caucasian. Oh, well, maybe you're not talking Black enough. So that was always something that I always dealt with about my voice. It was always so different. And you're so I said to myself, well, since I'm so different, why not do something different on air? Why not stand out from the rest? So that's the reason why I do what I do. Plus, I enjoy what I do. So I want to talk to the listener. I understand how it is that people forget, even though we're traffic reporters, we sit in traffic too, and it's a struggle. We don't like it. We're unhappy.
What's crazy?
I want to talk to you and kind of, I get it,
What's crazy, you say the people have said about you've got one of the best, most easy listening voices. I mean, I'm like, just pick a book and start reading to me. I can close my eyes. I mean, it's great.
Thank you.
I love it.
And two, you also have to have such a great bedside manner, because when you deliver bad news to us, it's as bad as the doctor delivering bad news to us, because like the trip that should have taken us 20 minutes is now going to take us 3.5 hours. And you're like, if you're on 75, guess what? But you do have a very friendly and kind of calming way of delivering that bad news.
Well, thank you again. I understand how it feels to sit in traffic and to not understand why do they have to block the entire interstate just to move a crash from one lane to the next. I don't understand that, and we're all in a hurry to get somewhere to go nowhere, as I would always say. So I just try to relate, and I have to admit, a girlfriend did say to me one time, she said, well, if I asked you about how was Georgia 400, how would you say it to me? And I just told her, well, 400 southbound is slow from Roswell into 285. And she said, well, why can't you talk like that to the listeners, like they're your friend? And I was like, yeah, that is true, because they are my friends. So.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't realize, and it's something that's really, it's almost like theater where you're aware there's an audience, but you don't see them.
Yeah.
You have to think about that in radio. There is an audience. You just don't see them.
Yes.
Something that I think dovetails to your personality and your style and your delivery that I actually wanted to get into a little bit, because one of the things, I follow you on Twitter, I follow you on Instagram. You spend a lot of time sharing messages of positivity, and that radiates with me. That resonates with me. I do a podcast with some friends over in the UK where it's all about what have we learned that we can maybe share with people on how to stay positive, how to stay upbeat. It's so easy to go negative. It's so easy to go down. It's so easy to be trapped into thinking everything sucks. The world is terrible. I'm a loser. There's nothing good about the world, nothing good about me. You do something that I love. You put out just positive messages.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's again, just like what you said, everything is so negative. And especially after the last year we had with 2020, my goodness, all you would ever hear is something about with the election, something about with this, something about with COVID. And it's just always, if you constantly watch the news, you will just, you would just think the world is just a terrible place, in which sometimes it's not the greatest,
Right.
but there are some good parts to it. And so we all have to still try to stay positive for our families, for our sanity, for ourselves. So that's why I'm like, well, you can constantly go online and talk about who hates who and why this person is happening. And I'm going to cancel you because you wore your jeans too tight, or I'm not going to talk to you because you're a Republican, or I don't like Democrat or something. Why not just do something good? So that's the reason why. And again, I have a daughter. I have a 19-year-old. And so I want to be like that beacon of light for her, because I know that right now, she's in college, she's going through things 19-year-olds go through.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be positive for her. I want her to know, I don't want you to get down on yourself about certain things, about school, dating, friends, whatever. There are bad points to life, but there are also good points to life. And I want you to focus on the good points.
That is awesome. And what I love is so many of your messages are about, it's your choice. It's up to you on how you're going to choose to act.
It really is. It really is. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, it really is. It really is our choice. I am a firm believer in, I understand people have gone through struggles. People have had, bad relationships, bad childhood. I get all of that. And I'm not taking anything away from that. But ultimately, it's our choice, what we do with our lives. You can have a bad relationship and you can say, well, I'm not going to date anymore. I'm going to go out and I'm going to kill all guys because one did me wrong. Or you could be like, well, hey, on to the next one, thank you next, So that's what I'm saying. And just try to look at the positivity of life. Life is not all bad. We're here. We're breathing. We're alive. We're healthy for the most part. We still got our teeth and our hands, everything working. My mama used to always say, if you wake up and everything's working and you're still in your right mind, you still can remember some things, then you are truly blessed.
Yeah, that's me half the time. Well, and I think that's a great message. And one of the things that I keep emphasizing with my kids is, I don't care where you fall on the political spectrum, or I don't care what your religious beliefs are or whatever. I have more in common with you just because you're a person than I have opposite of you. And so there has to be common ground that we can get to somehow have, some sort of amenable relationship. And sometimes we get surprised and find people that are very, very different from us who we become close friends with.
Exactly. Yeah, I have a lot of friends who we don't share the same political views. We may not share the same views on certain topics and stuff, but I love them to death. I think those people are brought into your life because if you're just always just so one-sided, just, with this, how can you really develop as a person and as a human? That's why I feel God put us all together and made us all look different, act different, different shades, different sizes. So I just feel like be positive, try to be around people who may be different from you, whether you feel like it's a challenge or whatever. They are brought into your life for a reason.
I agree.
And I love that. What I wanted to ask is, when did you decide to make, because to me, it feels like a conscious effort on your part to say, I'm going to put out a message of positivity.
Gosh, I would say maybe 3 years ago. Maybe about 3 years ago, I just totally changed my whole outlook. And I think maybe my daughter getting older and going through things that teenagers go through. And I didn't want her to get so down on life until maybe she decided to do something she shouldn't do, or be around the wrong people that she shouldn't be around. So I felt like, if I'm preaching this to her about being positive, then I also need to be a role model and show that, you can be a more positive person. Yeah, you can be a happy person. You can rise above all the negativity and do something different. So I'd say maybe about 3 years ago.
Wow, I love it. And you're in good company here. Walt has 3 daughters. I've got 4 daughters. You have a daughter. We're all raising girls. And
so we know it. You know how the girls are.
and we're
yes, well,
we're all.
I think I know how girls are, and then they change the game on me and confuse me again.
That's what they do.
Yes.
I will tell you, my wife and I just now are what we think are entry-level empty nesters because our youngest is away at college. So we have the house to ourselves for the first time since we've met each other. So
Wow.
It's a unique stage of life. And if you've got a 19-year-old, she's in college, you're feeling that same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And your messages of positivity and using the internet for good. I've always said, I don't care. People are like, we got to ban social media and Facebook is crap and Twitter. No, social media is like a hammer. I mean, you could build a house or you could bludgeon someone. It's not social media's fault. It's how you use it.
Exactly. I mean, we could go online and try to find horrible things. I mean, people doing bad things to animals and, saying really nasty things, or you could just go on the internet and look for happy stuff like shopping on Amazon. I mean, the choice is yours.
It is. And you know what? And that's what I love about your messaging. And I wish, if I could have like the big giant wish, it wouldn't be for the $1 million. It would be, I just wish people would learn to appreciate the good in their lives. It feels like social media has created this really weird way of looking at the world that everything's crap. And if I'm not immediately getting 10,000 likes or I'm not an influencer, I'm not worthy. I'm like, no, that's not true. Everyone has worth. Everyone.
Yeah. And again, like I said, when I saw things that my daughter was going through as a teenager and some of her friends, I was like, this has got to change. Because like what you said, the thing about Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and everything, if you don't get so many likes, then you're not a good person and you're this and we didn't have to deal with any of that growing up. But nowadays it's so influential to these kids. And we hear about it all the time, unfortunately. I mean, children taking their own lives because they felt like, well, they didn't like me because they didn't like my post or,
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, things have just got to change. If I can't change the world, at least let me change it in my household. And if I can affect a couple of people and make a couple of people feel what I'm saying and feel happy about it, then I've done my job.
Well, I can honestly tell you from my perspective, you've done that with me. Every time I see a post, I start smiling. I start feeling good. I feel like I need to share this. I need everyone to go read this. I mean, it's great. And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Before we close off the interview piece, and I hope you'll want to hang out with us till the end. You're doing traffic. You love what you do. But if you could have that crystal ball and tell you where you're going to be 5-10 years from now, where do you see Veronica Harrell down the road?
Ooh, 10 years from now, honestly, I would love, because if you see my post, you see I love the beach. I want a home on the ocean. I want to wake up every morning to the sound of the beach. Just sit out on the beach for hours at a time. I always say that. So 10 years from now, yeah. I mean, saying I'll be retired, I don't know about that. But if I could somehow finagle and get a beach house.
Yeah. Do weather and traffic in Panama City.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
You and my wife would both agree on that one. She can disappear for 15 hours straight on the beach. Just set up the tent and come get me when the sun goes down,
Yes. I love it. I love the water. I love the ocean. I just love it all. Yes.
I want to do this now, and then I'll have you do it again at the end, because a lot of times people are in the middle of listening, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I want to follow this person. I want to learn more. I want to read these texts. So take a second. Tell us, if somebody wants to follow you on social media, how do they do that?
Oh, it's real easy, real simple. Veronica Harrell. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. So it's real easy. Just Veronica Harrell, real easy to find.
All right. So obviously Twitter's public and Instagram's public, but do you have is your Facebook page public, or do you leave your private page open?
I leave it's actually not public. You do have to send me a friend request.
Okay.
But that's fine. I mean, I check all my requests. I'm not like, oh, forget that person. I check all my requests.
And you might be a little bit like me. When I was younger and my kids were younger, I kept that private page kind of locked down to people I knew.
Yeah.
But when you're on the air, when people hear you, they want to friend you, and you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
Now that my kids are all a lot older, I'm a little more loose with that, but I still have a public page as well. So that way I always drive people to it. Folks, follow Veronica. Her messages of positivity, the pictures on the beach, the pictures she takes of sunsets and just the beauty in the world that sometimes we all stop or we forget to stop and look at. It's amazing the miracles that exist every single day in our lives if we would just take a second, put the phone down and look at the world around us. And you help me remind myself of that when I read your stuff. So that to me is inspiring.
Well, good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. So do you want to hang with us for a little bit? We've got a few crazy things
but I'm
we like
go
to do.
off for just 1 second just so I can take my dog out.
Okay. You can do that.
Because he's whining. I don't know if you can hear him.
No, he's been good. He's been good.
We'll be back in 1 second.
We'll take
I just got to open the door.
Let's go ahead and move on then to the next segment we have here is, and I don't know exactly what we're going to call it. I've been sort of telling people it's
God, what is this? Stop it! I didn't get me out of this hell.
And Walt, what's the movie this week?
So thanks to our listeners, they and Veronica, by the way, this may be the part of the show where you think, "Oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself?"
Why am I here? There's no amount of positivity she can post to fix this segment.
We are going to need it because this is bad. So this movie you probably have never heard of. It is called Killer Sofa.
And you don't mean it. You're not in the Valley Girl way. Oh, like that's a killer sofa, man.
No, not at all. Now, a word of warning: don't confuse this with the other cinematic great Killer Couch. It is not Killer Couch.
Wow.
It is Killer Sofa, and there's no sofa in this. It's actually a recliner. It's a chair. So,
it's not even called the right thing.
It's not called. So the speculation online is that in New Zealand they actually call recliners sofas.
Oh,
I don't know. I didn't do any research. So
okay.
I kind of said okay. Now the one bit of trivia that is out there in this movie is that the chair cost $64 when they bought it from a consignment store. So the $64 chair got turned into the Killer Sofa. Now here's the weirdest thing about this movie. There is a character called Detective Gravy. I'm telling you, this is really stupid.
Okay.
He is played by a guy named Jed Brophy. Jed Brophy has been in, of course, Killer Sofa, The Hobbit, District 9, King Kong, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings, Twin Towers, and Return of the King. He was on a couple of episodes of Xena Warrior Princess and The Adventures of the Swiss Family Robinson.
I'm guessing he's a New Zealander?
He's a New Zealander, and he caps off his career with Killer Sofa. So
he needs a new agent.
He really, really does. Or new career.
Yes.
So is he
possibly news, weather, and traffic?
Tell him to come on board.
Is he a friend of Peter Jackson or a relative? I mean, he seems like he's in every Peter Jackson movie.
Well, and he plays different characters in all three of the Lord of the Rings movies. All I can figure is just that the pool of actors in New Zealand must be so small that you constantly work and you get great movies and you get Killer Sofa. So, but he's the lead actor in this thing. Here's the hard part for me. I was trying to figure out what the plot is, and I'm still not 100% sure.
There's a plot.
Is there even a basic premise?
No, not really. So, well, sort of. So the best I could come up with, and then I will read what IMDb says. For some reason, a chair comes to life and wreaks havoc, but we're not really sure why. And there are actually parts of this movie where I literally had to rewind because I thought I might have fallen asleep and missed something, but I didn't. So it was just bad and didn't make any sense.
That's bad when you're like, did I fall asleep?
Yeah, and it's only like 86 minutes. So it's hard to even fall asleep in this thing. And the acting is terrible. The directing by a guy named Bernie Rayo, who also wrote it, is embarrassingly bad. And you've seen some of the ratings on IMDb. This movie gets a 3.6.
Oh, so that's worse than last week's what was it? Velocipaster?
Velocipaster. Yeah, this is worse rated than Velocipaster.
Wow. That's an effort.
Yes, it is. So here is what our good friends over at IMDb have as the storyline. When a demonically possessed reclining chair becomes enchanted by a girl and starts committing crimes of passion, a couple of detectives find themselves fighting their own demons while trying to solve this strange case with the help of a disgraced Jewish rabbi and an eccentric voodoo sorceress.
That's always a good pairing.
I've got to be honest, I don't see that.
Oh, wait. Wait a minute. So that description does not describe the movie you saw?
Sort of. I mean, like, those characters are in it.
The names are the same.
The names are the same, but I don't think that's what really happened. So either, like, I have to admit, as I was watching this, I was like, wait, what is this person doing? And why is that person there? And I had to watch this one scene where the chair had sent the springs out to kill this guy. And the springs brought the guy back and he threw him off the deck into a trash can. I had to watch that scene like 3 times because it was so good. And then there is the infamous eyeball in the vacuum cleaner scene that you can't miss. It's very memorable, but it's really disjointed and insane. But it's also one of those that I really could not stop watching. I was like, I have to see if this comes together somehow.
It sounds entertaining. It
is in its own weird way. It is entertaining. And at the end, kind of go, or at least for me, the end comes and you're like, is this the end? And then, because it's like, it leaves you very, well, let me put it this way. If they ever do a Killer Sofa 2, they've set the table. But I don't think they'll ever do a Killer Table 2 because nobody wants to see Killer Table 2.
Killer Sofa.
So, I have to say, if you like bad movies, this is a good one to watch. I mean, it has all the elements of, it really does actually entertain you. It's not really bad production. You don't have some of the crazy stuff you have in other movies where like the boom comes into view or people do the same line 3 times because they keep screwing up and they don't cut and retake. The editing's actually pretty good. There's a little bit of, cartoonish type gore, but it's really not that bad. It's for a bad movie, it's kind of good. I would give it like a 5 out of 5 on a bad movie scale.
5 out of 5?
Wow. On a scale of, it's not like Star Wars 5 out of 5. This is like bad movie 5 out of 5.
Okay, so of the bad movies, this is one of the better of the bad.
Right.
It's at the top of the list of the crap. Okay, good.
Yeah, the one last week would get like a 1.
Wow.
This one is actually watchable. Sort of.
Well, I'm looking at on IMDb some of the screenshots, and it's like they've created a facial expression on this frickin' sofa or on this recliner. They
have it. I keep thinking I don't want to give away too much, but nobody's going to watch this thing. So what am I kidding myself? Like the chair will show up looking out the window at people. It's on the porch looking out, watching its love interest at one point.
Wait. The
really
sofa had a love interest?
A chair.
Yeah. but he tries to kill the person. So it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, even at the end, like the conclusion of this thing, you're really not quite sure what you've just watched. So anyway, I'll leave it to the viewers who are smarter than me to go watch this thing and tell me where I missed. But I get what happened, but it's almost like they didn't know what to do with all the characters, so they just kind of said, "Hey, why don't you try this and we'll fix it in post," and then they never really fixed it in post. So
okay.
Well, I do love I just saw the poster for it. Killer sofa, don't sit on the furniture. That may just say it all.
That is not even a plot point of it. Like, you can sit on it. It doesn't do anything when you sit on it.
Oh my God, I gotta watch this. You gotta go to IMDb and just look at the screenshots, and the sofa looks like something that, except for the fact that it looks a little evil, it could have been like the cartoonish type sofas you would see on like the Muppet Show or Blue's Clues or something.
No, yeah, that is what it is. Yeah, and it like talks. I mean, the poster does not do it justice. It's kind of like a J.J. Abrams, like when you go to the theater and you see, hey, this new J.J. Abrams movie is coming out, and you feel like you've got a real sense of what it is, and then you go see the movie, it's like two different things. The poster for this movie is not what this movie is.
Don't be lulled.
That poster is more like an Attack of the Killer Tomatoes poster. This is a cinematic garbage pile, but it's worth watching it burn.
All right. That is awesome. So Killer Sofa.
It's available if you have Amazon Prime. It is free this month. So
it should be.
Again, it should be. They should pay me back my monthly rate for watching this thing and reviewing it. But it was actually fun to watch. So check it out if you're so inclined.
That is fantastic. All right. Well, let's move into something that Veronica has sort of a sense of news, but I don't know if she's ever heard news the way we do it. We call this...
It's no bullshit.
And Walt, you've got the first news story.
All right. From WFSB News, EMS employee detained after throwing Molotov cocktails at several CT ambulances.
Holy cow.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy's a winner. A Torrington man was arrested after targeting ambulances around the state Saturday night, throwing Molotov cocktails at them. 37-year-old Richard White is expected to be extradited to Connecticut sometime in the next couple of weeks. He'll face charges in each town these fires were sparked in. On Sunday, Connecticut State and Meridian Police revealed more about the timeline of yesterday's fires. As far as motive, we're still wanting to learn that. The first fire, it was reported in Old Stony Brook shortly after 4, and the last fire in Roxbury was reported shortly after 6. So everything that occurred last night happened in a very, rapid time frame. Connecticut State Police Sergeant McCuck something stated.
There's my partner. Show prep? What's show prep?
You read the headline, it's good enough. White allegedly arrived at Hunter's ambulance base in Old Stony Brook and ignited a makeshift Molotov cocktail inside of the employee room. White then fled the scene in a 2004 grade Ford Taurus, which I'm sure was very nice. According to police officers, they were called to Hunter's ambulance at 450 West Meridian to assist in the Meridian fire investigation. But officers spoke with employees who stated that at approximately 10 a.m., a Hunter's employee by the name of Richard White was involved in a physical altercation with another employee. A disciplinary hearing followed that resulted in White being placed on administrative leave. Just after 5, White arrived at the ambulance location with the same Ford Taurus. The vehicle approached the ambulance holding bays on the South Vine Street side of the building, where White was seen throwing a Molotov cocktail out of the driver's side window before heading west on Main Street. Police said White also set 2 fires in Roxbury. We got the call about 5:45 for an automatic alarm, the Roxbury police chief and fire chief said. By the time Chief Wheeler arrived, there was smoke coming out of the ambulance bay. So we got the fire trucks out, and we pulled the ambulance out with one of the fire trucks because there was heavy smoke, and we got the ambulance away from the building. Fortunately, no one was inside when the fire started. No injuries, nobody got hurt, but the fire trucks are still able to be used. Fire response is still there, so they made no other provisions for the ambulance. There are other ambulances in service, said the chief. So that is Richard White of Connecticut, who apparently in a bit of employee anger tried to burn down all the ambulances in town.
It's no bullshit.
I guess the thing is that he was 37 years old. I'm thinking like maybe a teen or somebody in their early 20s, but we're talking about an adult, 37 years old. Wow.
Yeah, kind of old enough to know better, maybe?
Yes,
perhaps.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
He needs a little of your positivity.
Yes, he does. Well, I think he has plenty of time to think about that now. Check out my Instagram and
There you
Facebook
go.
page.
Yeah.
And he'll send you pen pal letters like your old
Yes,
job
he
and
will.
ask for your picture.
Well, and of all the things to vandalize or try to destroy, an ambulance.
Yeah, like
Right,
the one thing
right.
that's like doing the good of the community.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, let's just burn down the fire department, destroy the ambulances. Perfect.
All right, well, I have got one where the headline kind of tells it all. World's unluckiest burglars called the cops on themselves.
Do you mind telling me what this is all about, mister?
Awesome.
Story from Britain. Yes, this is from across the pond. Police in Britain say they received a suspicious call related to a burglary on Wednesday, one that came from the unsuspecting burglars themselves. Police say one of two men later arrested had accidentally butt dialed 999, the emergency number used in the UK, allowing authorities to listen in as the crime was in progress.
What's a nice place like you doing and a girl like this?
The call detailed all of their antics up to the point of hearing our patrols arriving to arrest them, said Chief Inspector John Owen of the Staffordshire Police, who wrote in a tweet which included a clip of one of the ill-fated burglars from Home Alone, saying, quote, "I think we have just arrested the world's unluckiest burglars." Owen wrote, "It's a bum rap." Per the BBC, the two men from Stoke-on-Trent, age 49 and 42, remained in custody as of Thursday, per the Stoke Sentinel. So yes, two criminals accidentally butt-dialed and broadcast all of their shenanigans, detailing their position, and you can hear the police arrive in the shared audio message that police put out.
It's no bullshit.
Absolute geniuses.
Wonderful people,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Unbelievable. Yeah, them and the fire thrower with the ambulance guy, I think they need to hook up,
Yeah.
maybe get a sitcom together.
I've got another one for their gang of geniuses here. I don't know if you say it, Dubois, Pennsylvania. Man charged after leading police on a high-speed chase. But this wasn't any of your normal high-speed chases. State police have charged a Dubois man after he led troopers on a high-speed chase Friday afternoon. Troopers say Michael Myers,
It's all part of the plan.
faces charges of fleeing and eluding police, reckless endangerment, and DUI, according to the press release. I know this is a shock. Authorities said Friday around 11:30 a.m., a trooper observed a gold GMC that was pulling a U-Haul trailer, keep that in mind, speeding along Interstate 80 westbound towards Dubois. The vehicle also displayed several equipment violations, troopers added. State police say the trooper attempted to stop the vehicle, resulting in a high-speed chase along the interstate. I guess that's U-Haul and all. Troopers say the driver, identified as Myers, then exited the interstate and began traveling southbound toward Dubois along Route 255. Authorities say Meyer began swerving in and out of traffic before turning onto Midway Drive, traveling through the Lowe's parking lot and back out onto Route 255, at which time the vehicle hit a curb and the U-Haul trailer came unhooked.
Uh-oh.
Troopers say he continued to swerve through traffic, prior to striking a minivan near the intersection of Route 255 and Industrial Drive. He then lost control and got the vehicle stuck on a curb, the releases note. Troopers say that there were 2 adults and 3 children inside the minivan, but that they were not injured. Myers was taken into custody by state police. Additional court documentation has not been made available.
It's no bullshit.
Wow.
And that sounds like something I would see on an Atlanta highway, honestly.
I was going to say,
it does.
How would Veronica Harrell report on this on a live chase in pursuit? Right now, we've got it on 285, the inner ring, heading toward the extra Dunwoody.
You forgot to include Peachtree. Peachtree got to throw that in there.
All righty.
I'm just glad the U-Haul's okay.
I have the creme de resistance for our final story. Ready?
Okay.
I'm going to just read the headline and then I'll dive into it. I may have to skip over. It's a little bit longer, but I was like, I could not pass over this story when I read the headline. Woman belonging to alien reptile cult to stay in jail for shooting boyfriend.
Who wants some?
As one does.
By the way, true story.
Wow.
No, look, insane conspiracy theories are usually nothing more than slightly chuckle-worthy light news. But for every funny story, there's one case where an unhinged person brainwashed into outlandish beliefs does some irreversible damage. Case in point, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled on February 25th, just a few days ago from our recording, that a woman sentenced to 15 to 40 years in jail for the murder of her boyfriend should, in fact, stay behind bars. Here's why. Barbara Rogers, age 46, was sent to prison in 2019 after she put a bullet through the head of her 32-year-old of her boyfriend, Stephen Mineo. That was because Rogers had been accused of being a reptilian alien creature in disguise, according to Penn Live, the local news. Okay, keep that in mind. She got accused of being a reptilian alien in disguise. Both Rogers and her boyfriend at the time were members of a deranged online doomsday cult. They were convinced that an extraterrestrial race of devil-worshipping reptilian shapeshifters were looking to install the Antichrist himself as the supreme ruler of Earth.
They got a little bit of everything in this one, don't they?
I know.
This is like the next bad movie you can't stop watching premise.
Yeah.
Check this out. The crime actually occurred back in 2017. On that day, Rogers, an Army veteran discharged for, quote, medical reasons, and Mineo were both staying at their shared apartment in Monroe County, Pennsylvania. Over the course of the day, this odd couple got into an argument. Now, according to the senior judge, their affiliation with the Doomsday Cult had been causing friction in their relationship for some time. Apparently, Roger stated that she and Mineo had recently become upset with the leader of the cult, who believed Rogers, who is a member of the cult, was actually someone sent in from the reptilian alien force to spy on the cult.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
As a result, the boyfriend started to distrust her, saying, "Why would they think that about you?" To which she's like, "I'm not the alien. We're here to stop the aliens from infecting the country. I'm not one." He goes, "Yeah, but our leader says you're one." Well, Roger said her boyfriend decided, "I fell for your shenanigans. I'm obviously under your spell. I've lost the will to live," and actually put a gun against his head and asked her to pull the trigger. To which she said, "Okay," and did.
Oh my God. Wow. That's like not a bad movie. That's like a bad series.
She called 911 and said, quote, "My boyfriend had a gun. He told me to hold it here and pull the trigger. Oh my God, he's dead." Well, we don't know whether her story is true or not because the only other person who was actually involved is now gone to his grave. So the judge in this case is not convinced of the accuracy of her account. Now, here's why. Evidence was presented in trial that showed Rogers and Mineo had had a tumultuous relationship in the weeks leading up to the shooting. The alien cult that Rogers belonged to said that it was led by a woman by the name of Sherry Shriner. And some 2 months before the killing, Shriner started attacking Rogers online. She insisted Rogers was in actuality one of the group's enemies, a reptilian alien devoted to furthering the cause of Satan. Because of her affiliations, Mineo should call off their relationship. So the cult leader was already 2 months ago telling her boyfriend, you need to drop this woman. She's not what she seems. So Rogers and her defense team didn't see eye to eye with the judge. That's why they now filed their appeal to the Supreme Court. According to Rogers, her shooting Mineo wasn't an act of intentional violence. She argued that she should have had a retrial for involuntary manslaughter, and of course, in light of her military service and some mental, go figure this, her mental instability. She also claimed, guess what, Walt? She was intoxicated at the time she shot her boyfriend.
I find that hard to believe.
Right, shocker.
Yeah. Speaking of the facts of the case, the most outlandish of them concern this Doomsday Cult that Rogers and Mineo. Now, keep in mind, they both followed this cult. The cult was founded by the aforementioned Sherry Shriner of Ohio, who went by the moniker of the Messenger of the Most High God. She would spread bizarre beliefs through a self-published ebook on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. The basic tenets, suppose we can call it faith, revolved around a global alien conspiracy. Shriner believed shape-shifting reptiles from outer space had infiltrated human society. We call this the miniseries V from when we were growing up in the 80s. Yeah. These reptilians collectively worship the devil. With tricks such as mind control and body snatching, they were setting up a totalitarian world government with the Antichrist at the helm. Shriner then used unflattering photos of celebrities as proof that aliens were here on Earth, because look at what they look like on screen and look what they really look like in real life. There's your proof. In fact,
that is amazing.
To wrap this up, in fact, food was what caused the final straw between Shriner and Rogers. Remember, Shriner is the creator of the cult who blamed her for being an infiltrator from this alien cult. One day, Rogers had shared online having tried steak tartare, a meal that we all know is raw meat. So that means, according to Shriner, she's ingesting blood. Eating raw hamburger is a symbol that you are part of the vampire succubus societies. Rogers is a witch, and I now can confirm it, she wrote on social media. There you go.
Wow.
So
you think you've heard it all.
And this is not fiction. This really took place in Pennsylvania. The Supreme Court case saying, no, you're a loony, you stay in jail.
It's amazing. It's astounding. But it's no bullshit.
Yes, thank God.
Was this news story written by the same person who wrote Killer Sofa?
I don't know. Are there similar plot points?
Oh, that's true. There was actually a plot to this one.
I love how the cult leader in this one goes, I've got proof she's an alien. She likes steak tartare.
Wow. That is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's why I had a short story for my first one, because there was a lot to digest in this one.
Yes.
All right.
Holy cow.
Well, let's move to our final segment. It's our entertainment segment. It's a segment we like to call, what are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to? And so we won't make our guest go first, but she's hanging out with us. We've enjoyed her riffing along with some of these fun news stories and things we've been talking about. So let's talk about what we can maybe recommend or maybe not recommend to watch, listen to, or read. Walt, we'll go to you first. We'll do watching first.
Okay, so I'm sorry, we're doing what are we watching?
We'll do watching first, yeah.
Okay, so I made a real miscalculation this week.
You watched Killer Sofa?
Well, being that I watched that, you'd think that everything else would be much better, but I made the mistake of saying, how much worse or how terrible could The Walking Dead be post Rick? So I just watched a couple episodes, and it is a disaster. It's worse. It is less entertaining than Killer Sofa. So I would say Walking Dead ended with Rick, if you could even make it that far. I hated it because I love that show in the first few seasons, but man, I just couldn't do it. the other thing is my kids have gotten into watching a lot of these true crime documentaries and stuff. So we've watched a few of those, and there's one, we may have even mentioned this one before. There's a podcast by the same name, same subject matter that I would highly recommend called Dirty John. And it's about a 10 episode deal on Wondery, and Veronica's shaking her head.
I know that one.
So I've listened to the podcast. I'm watching the show that's on Netflix right now, and it is fascinating. I mean, and it's a docudrama. It's, the actors are really great. In fact, the guy who played Nero on the 2019 Star Trek is, the reboot of Star Trek is the guy who plays the weird husband in this thing. Mm-hmm. And it is so crazy, but it was so good to sit with my daughters and watch this and go, this is what a sociopath is like. Do not date this kind of person. And
dating tips.
It is just scary how he just took over this poor lady's life and alienated from her family. And it is bananas. So check that out. It's called Dirty John. I think it's a 6 episode series on there, and it is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Veronica, you can weigh in on this while Walt's saying it. Have you seen this?
I've seen it. Yeah, I love all of that, the crime story stuff. I love that stuff. I was recently watching Nightstalker, although I know the story.
Oh, that's a really good one.
Nightstalker. I also watched only the first episode. I got to get into it. Hotel Cecil on Netflix. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's bananas.
That's creepy. Do not watch that if you're in the house by yourself.
No.
No, wait, what's that called? Hotel what?
Hotel Cecil.
Hotel Cecil.
I hope I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah, you are.
It's about a hotel out in California, and just people have disappeared, people have died. It's just really, really, really creepy.
The Nightstalker actually lived there.
Really?
Yeah, Richard Ramirez. There are stories of him coming back from murdering people, and he would come in just his underwear, and he'd be covered in blood. And he'd walk up the stairs to his room, and people wouldn't think anything of it because the place was so bizarre, and nobody ever reported him to the police.
Wow.
All right, I'm writing this down right now. These are the things I'm going to check out. I love getting ideas of what to go watch on Netflix. There's so much, I don't know what to watch first.
Well, that Hotel Cecil awesome. is bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And like I said, it's really creepy. It's really scary. Do not watch it if you're at home alone because, I mean, I'm telling you. And like I said, by it being true, that's what makes it even more scarier. Like if we knew it was just fiction, but this is factual and it's weird.
Well, and then they would tell some crazy story and then the person would be like, well, and then this happened. And you're like, what?
Right. Right. And people, even though all the strange things were happening, people were like, well, I didn't care. I still went. It was a cheap hotel. It was right in Los Angeles. So I wanted to go and stay. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah. And it's in the middle of Skid Row.
Yeah.
And where they just drop off homeless. I mean, like crazy people and people out of the jail. And they were in the 80s, they were charging $4 a night to stay there.
And people were still staying there. Did you see when one couple said, when we stepped on the floor was so sticky. It was just like, and I'm like, I would have immediately turned around and left. They were like, oh, we just wanted a place to lay our head. We didn't care. The bathroom looked disgusting. We didn't care. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you folks?
And then they're the people who figured out that there was a body in the water supply.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, Alan, it's
good.
It is so good.
It is good.
And you're like, how could this be true? How does this building, why don't they tear it down?
Right.
But then all the employees are like, it's a great place to work. We love going to work every day. It's a beautiful building.
And never seen how people were in there shooting up drugs in the hallway. And people were like, yeah, well, I saw it was cheap. It was in Los Angeles. And I really wanted to go to Los Angeles. So I decided to stay here.
Wow. And they had 3 floors that had been restored and they'd charge a ton of money for them.
Mm-hmm.
But those people had to ride the elevator with the same people going up to where Richard Ramirez lived. So people be shooting heroin on the elevator with people who are staying in $200 a night hotel rooms.
Yeah. Yeah.
I honestly, what you're describing, I can't even wrap my mind around right now. Like you're describing like some bunker land.
It is so awesome. It makes you feel so good about your life.
Yeah, it does. It does. You have a glass of wine afterwards.
I am so glad you mentioned that because that is such a good show.
It really is. Creepy. So don't watch it if you're home by yourself.
Oh my gosh, no.
But it's good. It's good.
All right, Walt, you got Dirty John and not recommending Walking Dead. Anything else for you watching?
No, just all of the ones Veronica just said.
Okay. Well, I've got two that I want to mention for this week, and then we'll go back to Veronica and add if there's anything more to her list. I caught it off and on when it was on as a regular series, and I missed several episodes. We are going back and binging The Good Place with Kristen Bell.
Great show.
And Ted Danson. If you've never seen that, it is some of the most clever writing, great acting. They're digestible. They're only like 22-minute episodes when you take out the commercial breaks that are when you show them on Netflix. I love this show. Have you seen it, Veronica, at all?
No. I know what you're talking about, but no, I've not watched it.
You know, the whole concept is Veronica, or not Veronica, Kristen Bell's character thinks she's died and gone to the good place and finds out it's not, but it's amazing. And Ted Danson is brilliant. If you've not seen it, it's well worth binging the seasons. We're going back. I'd seen several. It's nice to go catch the ones I've missed. So that's what we're working through right now. And I'm going to pick a movie that I hadn't seen. My wife had gone for a camping trip a week or so ago, and I had a chance to just kind of scroll around, and I always wanted to see the movie Peppermint. I don't know if you know anything about that. Mm-hmm. It's with Jennifer Garner.
Okay.
And she plays sort of like what is normally that stereotypical male kind of movie scenario. A family is killed. She's left to die. It's a bunch of drug lords or gangsters, and it's a revenge movie. It's a typical revenge story where she's going to come back and take care of the people who took her family from her. Mm. But instead of it being from a male perspective, it's Jennifer Garner, and she's great. And it didn't get the greatest reviews. A lot of people thought, well, it's shallow. There's not a lot to it. Right. It's a revenge movie. All I want to see is the heroine come back, kick ass, and take names because they killed her family and she's out for revenge. And I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It gets a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb. I would give it a solid 7.5, maybe an 8. It was an enjoyable movie. I knew what I was in for. It's not an Oscar movie. It's not going to give you a bunch to learn about your life. It's just bubblegum popcorn. Sit back, relax, and watch Jennifer Garner, who's a very good actress, play what would be a typical action kind of movie role.
Okay.
That guy,
so check it out.
Nearly twice as many stars as Killer Sofa. So it sounds like it must be pretty good.
Check it out.
You know, and maybe I had low expectations. I just really enjoyed it. Especially maybe being a parent, if my kid were killed in a drive-by and my spouse was killed, there's parts where you just start daydreaming, like, would I do this? Would I take the law into my own hands? And what I love about it is she tries to go within the law, and you find out just how corrupt people are. And so she goes after the judge, the cops, and the bad guys, everyone that conspired to basically sweep this under the rug. So I liked it. I thought it was good. All right, Veronica, we'll go to you with what you're watching. You had Nightstalker and Hotel Cecil you mentioned. Anything else you want to throw out there for the audience?
Well, actually, I started watching The Equalizer with Queen Latifah.
How is that? Yeah.
And I had the same thought. I was thinking, because I love the Equalizer movies. I love Denzel. Equalizer movies, I can watch them over and over and over and over again. So I was thinking, it's not going to be the same. You know, I should think this way. It's female. It's not a guy. I can't see her being a kick-ass because you don't think of Queen Latifah like that. You know, I mean, so, but actually, I saw the first episode and I kind of got hooked. And so I've been watching it. So I actually like it. It is a really, really good. She's working with the CIA. So it's sort of like The Equalizer, the movie, working with the CIA, with former CIA person, but she also has a family that she's taking care of. And so she's kind of got a secret group that she can go to and like, hey, I need you to run this on this person or find this person. So it's kind of cool because she's like the super mom during the day, but then in the afternoon and at night, she's like the superhero. And you wouldn't think that of Queen Latifah, but it's pretty good. You should check it out.
You know, she's a very good actress. I've liked everything she's done movie-wise. And I think everyone I've talked to, including just you right now, has had that same, is this going to work? Right. And everyone that said that they've given it a try has said it was surprisingly good. I think everyone's expectations are being beat.
Well, I'm the same. I've always really liked Queen Latifah, and the only reason I thought this might be good is because she doesn't take bad roles. She kind of she knows what she's going to be good at.
Hmm.
So I'm glad to hear it's good. I've heard nothing but good things about it, so I'm going to have to check that out.
Well, and I do
Yeah.
like they said they did their best to try to make it its own. It's not trying to be Denzel Washington. It's not trying to be like the old series on TV. It's a modern retake on the concept of somebody who's out to help people who need, whether it's revenge or somebody who will help them when there's nobody else to help them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
They
I'm
did
gonna
a
have
great
to set
job.
that to record.
Yeah, I'm gonna go binge those. I think they only had like 3 or 4 episodes so far, right?
Yes.
Because I think it
Yeah.
debuted right after the Super Bowl.
It
Okay.
did. It did right after the Super Bowl. So just a couple of episodes in. Hopefully they'll renew it for a second season, but I don't see why not.
Cool. All right, what else you got?
That's it. Just the stuff I was watching on Netflix. That's it. I also like to read books. And again, I love my murder movies, the murder mystery stuff. So the book I'm reading right now is The Woman in the Window. And I have it as a matter of fact. The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. And it's actually pretty good.
I'm writing that down right now because I'm taking my show notes as we go because it makes it easier for me to when I go edit this.
Oh, okay.
So by AJ, what's the last name?
A.J. Finn. Finn.
Got it. The Woman in the Window. My wife is an avid reader. I have a stack of to-read books. We actually, I need to share a picture at some point just on social media, but my wife and I believe in having books, not just ebooks. Ebooks are great. We have an entire wall in our family room that is nothing but library shelves, and we are friends of the local library. It's a nonprofit that helps to raise funds for our library, and by being members of Friends of the Library, quarterly they have hard book sales where they've bought maybe 30 copies of a hot-selling book to put in rotation. And now they may only need 5 on the shelf at the library. They can back it down. They'll sell those books to be able to get funds for others. And we get first dibs. We have stocked our shelves every quarter. We buy more hardbacks. I love having books.
Yeah, so do I. My mother was a school teacher. So she would always bring home books and have me read everything to her. I mean, it was to the point where she would have me read something and then write an essay about it to her. So she knew that I read it. So I guess when I think about it, that kind of like started my career in journalism. But yeah. So I love to read. I absolutely love to read.
That's funny. Just a quick side story. My kids hated me for doing this when they were in middle school. I made them over the summer write papers to me because I saw they weren't learning how to write in school. And I said, you have to learn how to write.
Yeah.
And they got so mad at me for having to do book reports over the summer. And then they hit high school and they go, I can write better than everybody in my class. And then they hit college and they said, you prepared us for what basically we have to do in every college class. So that's exactly what you should do. I think kids need to learn how to communicate both verbally and on the written word.
Exactly. Yeah. I was raised like that, and I raised my daughter like that as well.
And that's probably why she's going to be a success as well.
Yeah, she better be. Paying a lot of money
she
for
dang
her.
well better be. Walt, is there anything else you're reading, Veronica, before I go to Walt?
No, that's it.
Walt, you got anything you're reading right now?
I am reading. I recommended a book last week that I'm reading. I'm still reading it. I've probably got another 2 or 3 weeks on that one. But there's one that I want to recommend that is just getting re-released. And if you're a Star Trek fan, this book is called The 50-Year Mission, The First 25 Years. And this is they bill it as the complete, uncensored, unauthorized oral history of Star Trek. It's by Edward Gross and Mark Altman. And it is a really, really good read. I would say you probably, if you're a Star Trek fan, you need to read it. If you're an entertainment fan and you just like entertainment history, it's a great read too. It's really well written. But it goes behind the scenes of how it got started, how basically, Lucy from I Love Lucy saved Star Trek, and all the kind of infighting that went on and all the great relationships that are there. So check it out. It's called The 50-Year Mission, The First 25 Years, The Unauthorized Oral History of Star Trek. And one of my friends who read it said, you've got to recommend this. It's awesome. The updates are great. And so go check that out. So that's a good one for all our Star Trek fans.
Okay.
Cool.
That's good.
It is really good.
Well, I mentioned earlier I do a positivity podcast, so I try to look for things that can kind of give me some maybe more reinforcement to things I believe, but for some reason, when it comes from a PhD or a psychiatrist or a psychologist, it can reinforce the credibility of some of the things that I've learned or some of the techniques I believe in. And there was a pretty cool book that I saw that you could get. It's an audio book. It was called Control Your Mind and Master Your Feelings. And it was really about, once again, that your brain is sort of like a computer, and you can reprogram it so that way you can control how you react. You don't have to leap to immediate anger or immediate distrust or immediate fear, that you actually have control, but you have to be an active participant in your own thinking. You can't just go reactive. You have to be proactive. And I love books like that reinforce the idea that you really are in control of your brain if you choose to. You don't, a lot of people don't. They just let their brain do whatever they want, whatever it wants, and you get, disaster. And so it was pretty cool. It's called Control Your Mind and Master Your Feelings by Eric Robertson.
I'm going to have to check that out. Sounds good.
I like things like that just, it's not necessarily that I didn't know some of this stuff. It's just fun to read how someone else sees the same subjects in a similar way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No.
So is this inspired by the Homer Simpson line, "Okay, brain, I don't like you and you don't like me. But let's finish this test and get out of here.
But let's work together."
Let's work together.
It sounds like
all right. And that's it. I'm beyond that. I always talk about this all the time. I read so much news, and that takes up a lot of my time, but it's just the industry I'm in. I have to constantly be on top of 10 different versions of every news story to make sure I feel like I've got the whole story.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our last segment as we start to wind down the show. What are you listening to, Walt?
There are 3 things that I want to recommend real quick. And one of them is something that was recommended on our show last week by Brian, our guest. And that is the History of the Marine Corps podcast. I started listening to that and I am hooked. It is so great. The guy who hosts it basically says, okay, here's what was going on in history. Here's how the Marines were involved in it. And it is really, really great. And it is absolutely addictive. I'm not a Marine. Got a lot of friends who were and have nothing but respect for the Corps. But this really enhances my appreciation for what the Marines do and what they've done. So again, that's the History of the Marine Corps podcast. And you can find that on any podcatcher. Also, I meant to mention last week, the Pod Clubhouse. We were on there. Alan and I were on there a month and a half ago. But the Pod Clubhouse features a lot of different podcasts. They'll bring the hosts on, let them explain who they are, what they do. So if you're looking to find a new podcast to listen to, or the motivation behind why we did the Wilder ride, things like that, that's a great place to go. And then finally, our good friend James Install, his podcast, Geek to Me Radio. Sometimes we forget to mention that, but it is a really great podcast. A lot of nerd stuff, a lot of movie reviews, and but he's very diverse in his opinions and what he likes. He'll have music and TV and comic books and all kinds of stuff. So that's a great podcast just to check out. Kind of mindless, but informative and a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah, he's a great guy. We had him in our first season. We had him in season 3, the first run of the Wilder Ride Listeners Lounge, and you can go back into what we call season 3 and listen to that interview with him. Just a great guy who just loves talking to the voiceover artists and the people behind the scenes of your favorite comic books or movies, or he likes to even talk to the composers of the soundtracks and the scores for these different shows and movies. And it's just a real, it's all the stuff we like, but just coming at it from interviewing the people from behind the scenes. And I love it.
And he does a great job of interviewing them. Really good. He has the ability to draw them out and really get to what their motivations are and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. Great guy.
Yep. Yeah, we'll go to you, Veronica, and then I'll wrap up. Anything you're listening to?
No, actually, I'm not listening to anything. I guess since I'm around talk radio all the time when I get in the car, I just want to hear some music. But what I've actually started doing, I've started building, like I have playlists on my phone, of course, but I actually started building playlists of like Mariah Carey, of all her hits, from back in the 90s and stuff, of Whitney Houston, just like all the divas, Aretha Franklin. So I've been doing things like that.
Cool. So like a Spotify list or something?
Yes, exactly. Because when I get in the car, I'll listen to the radio a little bit, and then I just want to kind of zone out and then listen to my own music.
Oh, I totally understand that. And sometimes you just want to listen to a channel that's you don't have to worry about commercials either.
Exactly. And you choose the playlist. So yeah. So that's
exactly.
What I've been doing.
And I've been a big Pandora fan for a long time, and I gotta get into some Spotify. I've got it. I just use Pandora so long where I've built my own channels, and it sort of starts to populate based on your likes.
Yeah.
I've always thought that was really cool. Ironic, you bring up something like music that you either grew up with or you're creating a channel based on divas or whatever. One of the things I like to do, and so one of the things I've been listening to lately, I'm big into, especially when it's later at night and you just want to chill, especially in the winter when it's dark and it's gloomy or raining. I love new age music, everything, like Enya or Ray Lynch, things like that. And I had forgotten about a group. And I think I've mentioned this a long time ago, but I wanted to bring it back around. There was a new age group, and they're still around. They're called 2002. Now, if you go to your smart speaker or something and say, play 2002, you're going to end up with Nickelback or something playing because it thinks you want the music of the year 2002. So you've got to be very specific and say, play music by the group 2002. I can let that play for hours during the evening. It's soothing. It's soft. It's a combination of, it almost feels a little Celtic. It's a little new age. It's very spa, relaxing, but it's just comforting. It's great in the background. For me, anyway, it's something I just love when I want to unwind. If I'm not going to listen to rock or pop or hip hop, and I just want to just chill and just kind of feel like I can read a book with music in the background, it's almost all instrumental. Really, really good stuff. So I would highly recommend the group 2002. If you've got a smart speaker like a Alexa or Google Home, just say play the best of the group 2002 and just see what you think. And let us know. I'd love for you all to tell us on our Facebook, social media. We're going to tell you about here in just a few minutes. Love to hear what you think of our selections and our choices. And that's basically it. Okay. Everybody just quiet.
Good deal. Yay.
Your new age music put me right to sleep. Sorry.
No.
Sorry, buddy. Yeah, Walt's eyes start crossing like, oh, dear God.
No, I actually, believe it or not, I've got the best of Enya on my iPhone. So
Wow.
I have to admit, when I'm looking to be kind of mellow and toned down, that's a good one for me.
I don't know when I got hooked into Enya, but that started my journey down the whole new age spa music, that whole kind of music. And to the point where my wife, who sometimes has a little bit of that ringing in her ears, that tinnitus that you can develop, she'll play on her, rather than having to buy a wave machine or a white noise machine. You get so many apps. She's got wave apps and thunderstorm apps that we'll listen to, and it'll play for like 30 minutes as you fall asleep. And it creates sort of that white noise background that's just so fun to go to sleep to.
Wow.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's it. That's our entertainment segment. Before we tell you about how to learn more about us, let's go back to our special guest, who we have been so happy could join us for this episode, Veronica Harrell of WSB Radio and a longtime broadcaster. Veronica, for folks who want to listen to you, they want to hear more about you, or maybe they want to follow your positivity, how can they get more of Veronica Harrell?
Oh, you can get more of me. I'm on all the time. Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. I'm on KISS 104.1, the new home of the Frank Ski Show. I'm going to throw that in there. And then I'm also on, hopefully starting back this week, on Triple Team Traffic in the morning with Scott Slade, the morning news. Then I continue on from there, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Eric Von Hessler show, and then Rush Limbaugh show, former Rush Limbaugh show. And that's Monday through Friday. And then on Sunday mornings, you can check me out on WSB TV, because I do traffic for WSB TV as well. And also, of course, social media. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter, and I'm easy to find, Veronica Harrell.
And both the KISS 100 or
104.1.
KISS 104.1 is available via stream. So is WSB. So anybody around the world can stream and listen if they want. Let me ask you this really very quickly before we move to our end. Have you ever thought of doing your own podcast, or have you ever been invited to be on someone else's podcast? Because you are such a dynamic individual.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, I would agree. You've got a great personality for it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I actually was supposed to be a part of a podcast, and it did not work out, unfortunately. But I have thought about doing my own podcast. It's just so many ideas I have in my head. So, yeah, but I've actually thought about doing that.
Maybe you could take
positive, something fun.
Yeah, you could go through and take each peach tree in Atlanta, explain where it is, where it takes you, what the history is. Then you've got like 700 episodes ahead of you.
There you go. I could explain what an inner and an outer loop is. There you go. Why does it transfer over east, westbound, north, southbound? Where am I going? Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's a great idea.
I do think if you ever did one on just how you've learned positivity, and I think we need more shows like that, just how to learn to be a more positive, upbeat thinker. I think that would make life so much better.
Well, I think I know what it is. I can explain why she's so upbeat.
Huh?
Because she talks about traffic, but she's not actually in that traffic.
There you go. There you go.
And so she's like, those poor suckers. I'm glad I'm not
sorry
there.
For you,
awesome.
But I'm glad I'm not you.
All right, Walt, as we close this one out, let's let folks know if they want to comment on anything about the show today, some of the comments of the things we've suggested, or take our next poll, which I'm assuming you'll have out here shortly for the next horrible movie you can't stop watching. How do they get in touch with us?
Well, the best place to find us is on Facebook, facebook.com/The Wilder Ride. Follow us there, and then a button's going to pop up to join our listeners group. So you want to hit that button, answer just 3 quick questions, just so we know that you're an actual human being. And then you join our group, and there's no politics, no traffic reports, no nothing to bring you down. It's just entertainment, fun stuff about our show. And it is a blast. We say this all the time. It is an absolute blast. There is so much stuff that people post in there and comments that people make. And it's all, very rarely do you ever get a negative comment or anything like that. And we usually kind of discourage that anyway. But it's just a great place to unwind and not worry about all the crazy stuff going on, but just to talk about entertainment and the show and Gene Wilder and stuff like that. So check that out. And then if you want some more information on Alan and I, or want to get hold of us, go to our website, which is thewilderride.com. From there, you'll find our email address, our bios, stuff about the show, stuff about each of the different guests that we've had. And that's a great place to find out everything about us. It also has a link to our Patreon page if you'd like to help us out with some of our expenses.
And I want to suggest that everyone come back next week. If this was your first episode ever, subscribe, take a second to rate, review, and share, and mark your calendar. Next week, Autumn Fisher, a voiceover radio personality. She's got so many funny voices she does as part of the Von Hessler Doctrine. She is going to join us and maybe even share some of those voices with us. But to do that, you got to be back here next week for another edition of the Wilder Ride Listener's Lounge. Veronica, thank you. I know it took almost 2 hours, but you were fantastic.
I had a wonderful time. I really enjoyed it. You guys are great.
Yeah, it was great to meet you, Veronica.
Well, thank you.
Same here.
So, yeah, is your husband just sitting in the background saying, "When the hell are you done with this?"
He's at work. No, he's at work.
Okay.
He's like, look, do what you got to do.
Yeah, he's driving that train.
Yeah, let's take the dog out. He's watching the sunset or something
just
right
be
now,
done before I'm home.
Or off work having a beer, so he's fine.
Well, it would have been great to have known him.
Jump on in, jump in. When you hit the dance floor, you gotta be jumping, jump on in, jump in.